I'm not taking the sabbaticals to get away from trading, but I do get a lot of benefit from them.
Two traders, Darren and Walter, pull back the curtain on profitable trading systems, consistent money management, and profitable psychological triggers. Welcome to the Two Traders Podcast.
Welcome to the Two Traders Podcast. I'm Walter Peters. I've got Darren on the line. And Darren, today we are going to look at this idea of the sabbatical. So this is going to be interesting. We were talking offline. I think you've got some really fascinating ideas about sabbaticals. And I'd like to hear more about your experience with sabbaticals and how that's changed your trading.
Yeah, so the sabbatical is this idea that's used by sort of companies now, where they give their sort of key employees, they give them some time off work. The ratio is like 15% or 20% of their time to do whatever they want with. And the idea being that this sort of break from the sort of restrictions of work, they can think more freely and come up with really good ideas, basically. And there's some sort of quite well-known examples of this. One is Google, that gives 20% of their time to do what they want to their software engineers, and another company called 3M, which is like a stationery company, and in the sabbaticals they've given to their engineers, they invented the post-it note and the scotch tape. So they've come up with really good ideas when they've been having this break from work. And obviously we're talking about trading here, and I was thinking, well, how does this correlate in the trading world? And obviously I go on quite a lot of long trips away, and I find those really good for me mentally. I kind of get recharged, and not just from trading, from other aspects of my life. And then I was thinking a bit deeper about it, and then I was thinking about how I trade intraday, and how sort of recently I've kind of been slightly changing my mindset about that. And I always held this belief that if there's opportunities to trade, people are saying, I'm going to stop trading when I get to 100 pips, or ideas like this of cutting off their trading. And I always had this belief that if there's an opportunity there and a setup, you should trade, you should take it. But obviously if you're tired, then you should take a break, because we know trading tired is not good. But the problem is that I like trading, I get a buzz out of it. So invariably what happens is I'll have a good morning trading, and then I'll be a bit tired in the afternoon, and I'll keep trading because there's valid setups, but I'll make decision mistakes and judgment mistakes, and give a lot of my profits back. So it's only when I started delving a bit deeper into this I realised that one of my lures for continuing trading was that we don't want to miss out on opportunities. And I know that there's often a good move in London, and then there's often a good move in New York, so I wanted to get all of those pips. But what was happening as a result was I was trading tired and then making mistakes, and because my mindset was set one way, I wasn't really seeing those pips that I was giving back, those losses. I was kind of glossing over them and just focusing on the odd occasion when I got a win in the afternoon, and that became more important to me. And so more recently I've kind of switched that mindset, and now if I've had a really good morning, I'll often just not trade in the afternoon, whereas before I'd just keep trading. So in effect having like a sabbatical during the day, and before that didn't add up to me before, because I think in the past I was too focused on the amount that I'd won in the day, and that was all important. Whereas now I'm sort of changing that mindset and thinking more it's about feeling fresh and being able to come back and repeat the process and not making mistakes. So for me, that's one way that I've kind of used this idea of sabbatical, and it works really well for me.
So is it fair to say that in the beginning or earlier you were the focus was on the day's catch, right? how many pips did we catch, or how much money did I catch this week? And you kind of wanted to maximize this, whereas now it's almost like your focus is on you, and you're more about maximizing your performance and giving yourself sort of the optimal, I don't know what you would say, screen time or trading time and time away from the charts and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and more about that kind of the sort of negative effect that rolls over when you make bad decisions or mistakes. And you say, maybe you make a mistake and you only lose 20 pips, so it doesn't matter, but that kind of has a bit of a roll-on effect as well. So there's kind of it takes time then to sort of erase that bad feeling from oh, how could I be so stupid? I knew I was going to do that. I should have taken a break. It's more about removing those from your trading than, I might actually not be winning any more pips, but I find it easier to trade well. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, have you noticed a difference in your performance since adopting this, or has it been too soon? Like, is it? Do you only have a few days, or how did? The real thing is, I'm more relaxed and I enjoy the trading more, and I can have a break more, and I just don't find it as stressful.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't look at it that way. They look at it more in terms of the money made or the pips gained or what the win rate is or average winner or whatever their bottom line is. It kind of gets back to that last podcast we did about numbers and quantitative numbers. So this is interesting because I'm thinking back to the guy who sort of introduced me to Forex, and this was a gentleman who ran these free courses. And they've since been shut down. But apparently what they were doing, I see now what was happening, is they would teach people how to trade Forex, and they would shuffle them along as an introducing broker. And so they would add they would add to the spread. So that's why we had a 14 pip spread on the euro, was because they had they were taking their cut out of there. And this is way back when online trading was just starting to come in. Like, I think Saxo Bank and FXCM had just opened up shop online. But what's interesting, the reason why I'm thinking of this guy was because he had a triple bypass surgery. And he said, I'm not kidding either, this is totally true. He said, look, if I can trade the day after my triple bypass surgery, then you guys can trade too, and it's sort of making this point that, look, you should be doing this every day, and it's something you can always do, and you don't, it was just like, it was almost like he was trying to instill a work ethic in us, and that we had to, and mind you, we had to go into this office to get the live charts, because all the Forex feeds were delayed, just as stock feeds were delayed 15 minutes. We had these delayed, Forex feeds, and so it was just a nightmare. And until FXCM came on, then we had live charts. But it was just crazy because you could just see this guy was so, he was not interested in his body and how he felt, and and maximizing his trading machine, as it were, his body. Instead, he was thinking about making sure that he was always there for the next big move.
Yeah, and I think we kind of wrongly get sucked, and maybe I'm just sort of talking personally now, but I think we get kind of sucked in this, right, well, I've just got to make $1 million, and then when I get $1 million, I can get that house, and I can get that car I wanted, and then I can get another 2 million and another 5, and then maybe if I've got 10 million, then then I can have some time off. And I think I used to think like that as well, and then I sort of stopped and said, well, hang on a minute, what actually makes me happy? And I sort of think about what I do when I don't have to work, and time's my own, and I kind of worked out how much I spend on a day to do that, and it was like, well, really all I need is like £600 a week is more than enough for me to do what I want to do to be happy. So why do I need 1 million or 5 million or 10 million, and you know, how long am I going to have to make myself unhappy to get there? Surely, like, really, you know, I want to be enjoying the sort of the journey as well as just sort of this goal to aim for. And I think a lot of people get sucked into that, and you know, certainly a lot of people will only be happy when they get there, but for me, you know, it's slightly different, I think.
Yeah, sure, yeah. I think that's because you're probably more in tune with what, you know, what sort of drives you. And a lot of people just assume it's going to be money, or assume it's going to be as soon as I can quit my job, or so forth. Like, they don't really think in terms of the big picture, which I think the way that you go about it is great. I mean, if everyone sat down and said, let's see, you know, what would I do right now if I just didn't, you know, if I could do whatever I wanted to do right now, what would it be? What would it be? Would I be out sailing? Would I be traveling? Would I be taking photos of birds in South America? You know, what would I be doing right now, and what makes me happy? Instead of allowing for your culture to set your goals for you, instead you just think about what really drives you as a person. What are those things that you just love to do, and focus in on that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think then if you start thinking that way as well, you're probably going to end up making better trading decisions, because if you're literally just focusing on that £1 million and that Ferrari, then you're probably not in the best mindset to be trading. And I think we kind of, you know, we've got that image, haven't we? We've got that picture of the Wall Street trader with, like, you know, all the mod cons, the nice big house, the beach house, and all of that. And we kind of, you know, we kind of sort of paint that picture, don't we? And you know, I don't think really that's the best sort of mindset for people to trade with. It's certainly not for me. You know, I could be wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that always got me about the guys trading in the pit, and I know these pits are disappearing now with most markets going electronic, and certainly obviously Forex doesn't have a pit anywhere, but the thing that always got me was, and I had a friend actually from high school I ran into, and he was trading in the pit in San Francisco at the Pacific Stock Exchange. But anyway, the thing that I always think of is this vision of these guys who things are so hectic that day that they can't leave the pits, and so they can't go to the toilet, and so they're just standing there and they're pissing their pants. because you know what I mean? That's the story that I've heard, and I just can't get that out of my head. I'm thinking, what kind of job is it if you literally have to piss your pants because you can't move from where your job is? You know, to me, that's definitely not happiness.
I wonder whether, you know, I always kind of question these kind of ideas in trading where, you know, certain things work because of such and such, and these kind of stories that, because I'm always suspicious of those, like how true they are. And, you know, I wonder whether, you know, because we talk about the advantage of trading the higher time frames, and I wonder how much of it is the fact that you are kind of, in effect, taking sabbaticals from the screen, you know, and having that extended time between having to make your decisions, you know.
Oh, absolutely. That is the core of my belief. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I believe that the more time I spend away from my screen, the better my trading decisions are. And my goal is to do exactly that, is to look at the market basically in the morning when Asia opens, and then try and stay away from the screen as much as possible until we're looking at the London Open. And I believe that if I do that, my belief is that I have a pretty good handle on where the market is likely to go that day for the rest of the day, meaning, you know, London and New York, because that's just kind of the pattern that I've been used to. And what I learned, like, I was one of the first traders to have his trading platform on his phone. And what I learned from that was, you know, I'd be out to dinner with my wife, and here in Asia we have the London markets in the evening. So I'd go out to dinner with my wife, and we'd be sitting there, and I would just be on my phone the whole time. I'm like, what am I doing? You know, trying to move the stop or whatever. And what I found out was that the decisions I made by having the screen literally in my pocket at all times, those decisions were not money-making decisions. Those are very poor decisions. I was cutting my winners too quickly, and all the sorts of mistakes that I made earlier in my career, I made again because I didn't get away from the charts. And so now what I do is I spend the middle of the day doing anything but looking at my charts, so that I'm really fresh when I come in and take a look at where the Asian market is, when the Asian market closes, and when London and Germany and Europe's starting to fire up. I'm really it's like I haven't seen the charts. I've just seen the open, and then I see sort of that first beginning part of London, and then I can decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And obviously, people who are members of our trading group, they see those videos then, and they see your videos, and so they see kind of how we approach it. But for people that don't know that, it's to me, it's so critical to have that fresh point of view. And the way I found this out was basically from taking a sabbatical. What I found was that I was in I was in Croatia, and I was actually trading, but it was years ago, and it was a difficult thing because you had to find an internet cafe, and it was hard to get internet and this sort of thing. And so what happened was I wasn't really following the charts that much, but I was making really good money, and I was like, this is great. I'm on holiday and I'm making money because I'm not over managing my trades. And so that was kind of the catalyst for me to make sure that I spent more time away from the screen. I think that what you're talking about is absolutely true, that part of the advantage that you get when you're trading the higher time frames is that you get these little screen sabbaticals. And the other part of it, I think, is that you're doing more planning in your trading, whereas when you're trading the 1 minute or the 3 minute charts or the 5 minute charts, you're actually doing more reacting. So it's a little bit of a different, there's some planning in there, but it's mostly sort of reaction. It's a different kind of, and that's just what happens in your brain, what's activated in your brain. But yeah, so I think that's definitely part of it. So do you have like a routine in terms of you take a sabbatical X number of months, or if something happens in your trading, or how do you approach that?
You mean my longer breaks away?
Yeah, because listeners may not know, but it seems to me that every couple of months, Darren, you're off riding your motorcycle through Asia, or hanging out down in the warm parts of Europe, or it seems like you get a lot of these. So I'm just wondering if it's just sort of like I feel like it, or if it's I want to take a break from my trading now because X happened or Y happened, or what's your what's your approach?
I don't actually want to take a break from trading, because I do really love it, and I love the whole sort of involvement in it, and it kind of gives me, it's a purpose, it's a job, and I like that. I don't like to be idle for long times, but I do find that as soon as I'm there, I quite often go with a plan. Okay, well, I'll trade some 4-hour stuff because that'll give me a bit of a break, and then I'll say, well, I'll trade some daily entries, and then before you know it, I'm just like not looking at the screen at all. I'm not taking the sabbaticals to get away from trading, but I do get a lot of benefit from them. So that's why I keep doing it, and yeah, so mainly I'm doing it because I enjoy it. It's fun for me, but there is positive. I do come back refreshed, and I kind of see things in a bit of a clearer light.
Is it when you're off, like when you're off on touring around and having fun? Is it that you have fewer minutes on the charts than you would say if you were at home? Is that part of it? Possibly. It's a difficult one for me. When I'm here and I'm trading, that tends to keep me quite disciplined. So I start to think about what I'm eating and whether I'm exercising, and I kind of have a bit of an exercise routine. And I don't really drink much, and I have like a nice sleeping pattern. And the sort of trading is kind of the thing that gives me sort of discipline in my life. And then when I go on holiday, I kind of cut loose and I party, and
and I stay out too late, drink too much, and so in effect they're kind of, they're working opposite each other. And if I was just always on holiday, I'd end up in an early grave. And if I was always trading, then then I'd probably find it a bit boring. So really, it's kind of that, it's being contrarian again. I kind of need that sort of to release that opposite side of my personality.
Right. So the balance comes from the different routine, the routine on holiday and the routine at home. Yeah, interesting. I think that for me, having a sabbatical is really good when things aren't, when trading, when we're going through a drawdown, when things aren't going so well. That's really good for me. And more importantly, going through and doing my back testing then too, to just sort of, reaffirm that I know how to execute the system and that sort of thing. I also think though that there's a real trap for those traders who have jobs, and if you're a trader with a job, you probably are spending at least 8 to 10 hours away from home at a minimum. And so that means that now you're talking about, if you're doing any sort of trading, especially on the lower time frames, that means you're probably going to cut into your sleep time, whether it's in the morning or in the evening or whenever outside of your work hours. You're probably, and that I think is where the real damage is done, because losing out on that sleep, that's going to affect you all around, and that's going to really hurt. And we've all sort of been there, I suppose, where you've been sleep deprived and you haven't been making the right decisions. And I see it in my emails. If I'm sleep deprived, my emails won't make sense, or or things will be off, slightly off. So I think that as a trader who has a job, it's probably going to be easier for you to spend time away from your charts if you're looking at higher time frames. Because if you're looking at the lower time frames and you're holding down a full-time job, it probably means that you're going to hurt yourself by not having that sleep time. So in other words, you get more sabbatical from your trading as a trader with a full-time job if you're able to make your trading decisions rather quickly. In other words, trading the higher time frame charts, because you can basically sit down in a half hour, figure out everything that you're going to do with all of your trades or all of your charts. That should enable you to have a somewhat reasonable life, and especially when you're on sabbatical from your work. Okay, now the temptation for a lot of traders is to jump right into trading, isn't it? I used to think that way, where it's like, okay, all right, now I've got a month off now, so what I'm going to do is just trade like crazy. That's another big mistake, I think. I mean, you've probably been through that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of us are, we're kind of desperate to make some changes in our life, and we want to get on with it. And this is our opportunity. And then I think the temptation is to try and force it, like you say, and sort of cram too much in, and force opportunities when they're not quite right. I know it's going to set up, but I've got to go to work, so I'll take the trade anyway, and then you're in the sort of realms of making bad decisions as well.
Exactly, that's exactly it. All right, Darren. Well, is there anything else to add? I think that we've touched on sabbatical. I think it's a great way to recharge your batteries, and not only think of it in terms of a yearly or an annual sabbatical or weekly, but a daily one away from the charts, and how you can basically use this idea in your trading to refresh yourself, probably make better decisions, and enable yourself more profits over the long haul, simply because you're keeping yourself fresh, you're keeping your analysis really tight and clean, and it's based on what you see and not what you think. I think this is a great way for people to incorporate this simple idea to basically improve their trading, because they're not sleep deprived, they're not scattered, they're not unfocused. They're simply getting that time away from the chart so that they can make a really clear decision based on what they see when they do see the charts.
Yeah, agree totally, Walter. If you, especially from my point of view, if you're trading intraday, there's no harm in missing out on a few moves if you've already made pips, and there's no harm in taking a break for the rest of the day.
Great. All right, Darren, we'll see you next time. I think next time we're going to be talking about placebo. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I want to do one on placebos. Interesting subject.
Great. All right, we'll see you next time, Darren. Take care.
Cheers, Walter.